Okay, what's up, everybody? Here's an update on Data Monsters. Uh, by the looks of it, not much has changed, but actually a lot has changed. Um, when I originally started this, there was like a bit of a break in between when I'm working on it now, and I decided I didn't like the way I set some stuff up, and since this is very early stages of development, right now is really, really important that I get these systems just how I want them so that later I'm not remaking systems where I have more variables to play with. Right now, I have just sort of two characters to kind of see how things are going to work. So it really keeps the overhead down when I mess stuff up. So basically, mostly I just did the state machine. I redid the state machine for the NPCs, which are these two characters here. And really, my goal is to make things streamlined and modular. The only shortcut I'm taking with this game is in the humanoid animations. So for humanoid animations, I'm using Mixamo and their animation profile or database or library or whatever. I will do custom animations for the monsters when I get there. But for right now, the humanoid animations, I don't know. I don't really have the means to do all new animations for humanoids when they're all pretty much going to be doing the same stuff. Now, the big problem that I had was that certain animations in Mixamo adjust the root even though I'm not adjusting the root. So, for example, the character over here in the orange, I'm getting used to Blender controls, forgetting how to do Unity. The character over here in the orange, they started the game where the chair is, and then they would have a series of animations to get into the chair, to go type, to get out of the chair, and the chair would move back and the chair would move forward. Now, the first time I did this, I did it in a way that just wasn't going to work. Like, it did the thing, but it wasn't going to allow other things to happen. So then I redid it, and then I realized about that root movement situation, and realized, okay, I'm not going to go in and tweak all of Mixamo's animations because there's like a bajillion keyframes, and my brain will melt if I have to do that. So I thought things over again, and where I've landed now, and I also learned because originally I started the game with a Mixamo model, and then I added my own model with my own skeleton, and then I realized, hey, the way that Mixamo's animations work, the skeletons just need to have the right names. So I realized if every model has the same skeleton, then every model has access to the same animations. And so instead of each character, each NPC having their own animation controller, I've completely rebuilt the animation controller. And now we have, it starts off empty, and we have standing states over here on the left and sitting states over here on the right. And then within each of those states, we have substates. And for example, the substate is just an integer. So that's the biggest downside to this whole thing is I want to avoid using strings. So all of the states, there can only ever be one state active. You're either standing idle, or you're sitting idle, or you're standing talking, or you're sitting talking, or standing walking, and then whatever else gets added onto there later. Probably crouching would be one, running would be another one, maybe in air or jumping would be another one. And then the substates are things that you could do within those states. For example, standing idle, there is your default standing idle. There's a standing idle catwalk, which is just one of Mixamo's idols. I have standing idle using a tablet. And again, these are all just Mixamo animations, but yeah. So if I want the character to do one of these things, I just turn standing idle on, and then I set the integer here, the substate, to whichever one of these animations I need. Now, the integer part's a bit of a pain because you have to memorize them, but it's, right now at least, it's not that bad because I just have to go in and click and see which one do I want. Oh, I want one. No big deal. It did take some setup, but now that I know how it's set up, it should be easier going on. It took me hours to kind of engineer this, and ultimately all I've really done is create, I think, an abstraction layer between Unity's animation state machine and then the character's animation state machine. So this saves me, because essentially it's the same thing. Like whatever state my character is in is going to be animated. So Unity's animator needs to know about that state, and I don't want to have two different state machines. It seems silly to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't know. It makes sense in my brain. So let's see. Let's open some code here. And what's great about the way I set this up is, again, all of these NPCs can share the same thing. Now, of course, this could mean problems later on, because if you change something for one, it changes them for all. But the beautiful thing is, when it comes to the animation part, they don't. If I change the animator component, is what's being accessed in game. So basically, copies of this are made for each character, and so they have access to their own animation systems, but they share the same capabilities. Anyways, where am I at here? Let's go to characters, and let's open up. So if you check a previous log, you'll notice that this character had a whole bunch of components. I had a character animation scripts where I would plot down, do this, then do that, then that, in order. I got away with that. The characters, or the NPCs I should say, I'm calling them characters so I don't have to type capital NPC into my scripts. The characters are no longer going to be as free to do everything. Like, again, I said earlier, the character would get in the chair and push the chair out and push the chair in and do all these things. I'm going to cut that. Characters are going to have some sort of trigger that tells them to go to a position and get into a state. And then from there, I can have them do some other things, like walk over there, walk over here. But this will make animating a lot easier. So if I press play, for example, you'll see that the character is here. And let's go to the component. One annoying thing at least I think I need to have, is I needed to serialize fields for the initial state. And this might change a little bit. I might use some scriptable objects here to have some save data, because one thing in my projects, like I have a WoW add-on, I don't have to worry about save data too much. That it's all handled for me with just like a line of code to save everything per character. I made a Unity asset with a joystick. I don't need to save anything. It's just a joystick. But in this full-fledged game, I'm going to need to do some saving, and I haven't decided quite how I want to do it. Most likely, there's going to be some player prefs. The only game I made, which unfortunately I had to take down, that involved saving, I used all player prefs, which it worked just fine. But I don't want to do that for this. I want to use proper saving. One way I know I could save is with scriptable objects. So for certain things, I might do that. For settings, I will use player prefs, and then I'm going to have to learn like the real way to do some save data eventually. But anyways, so each character has their own start state. So for example, this character's starting state is going to be sitting idle, and the substate is 1, which is going to be typing. This character has standing idle, and the substate is 2, which is going to be using the tablet. So, and let me just, oh my goodness, Blender. I wish Blender and Unity had the same controls. This drives me insane. I've been spending so much time on Blender that I forget how to use Unity. I'm going to move this character just over here so you can see how this works. So no matter where they are, Oh yeah, and then I have an action point is what I'm calling it. Just the place they will go to, the transform where actors they get ready for action. So if I press play on the game, there will be some weirdness as it loads in, but then after that, take like a second, we're good. And I don't mean this loading in, I mean once this is complete, the characters will be blocked into place, and then, yeah. Although, why is it being funny? Did you just crash on me? What assets are you importing? There's nothing new. Alright, boom. As you can see, the characters go to their locations, and there it takes a second for everything to load in, for the animator, I guess, to load in, and then they're doing their thing. And what's cool is that originally I had the idea of they would load in and pick a target to look at, but I ended up changing that. So well, I should change this name here to, I'll change it later. But basically, I just have a set of waypoints, and these, I might make it not split between each character, but for now this is helping me organize. But basically, I just put the transform where I want it, make sure the Y is at 0 for the most part, and then I can rotate, I can also rotate the Y axis to have the character look in the direction that I want. So they will initially start with the transform and Y rotation of the waypoint that they spawn at, and then they will play the animation. And then, for example, like I can, let's change her animation here. Now she's gonna be kind of funny because she's gonna be standing in the same spot the way I'm gonna do this. But let's do this. What do we got? Standing idle. Oh, let me make sure I'm on the right character. All right, we have sitting idle 1. I don't have any other sitting idle animations right now, so let's change this to standing talk 1. Boom, standing talk, and let's go back to the game. There she is. And she's doing the talking animation. So it's as easy as that. All I do is just say, let me change this name real quick. Is call one method that does everything. So let's open up the script here. There's some commented out stuff because this script was completely different before, and I've redone it. So the way it works is there's a public enum for character states, starting with an empty state. That way it guarantees that when I use my method down here, it will go into a new state. And then I have it kind of spaced out a little funny just so visually I can see what's going on. Originally, I had the states as idle, talking, whatever. And then when I started messing with the animator, I was like, well, it needs to be able to sit and type, so I realized I needed to have substates. So then I created 2 enums, one for state and one for substate. But then I realized some of it was clashing. Like, the character needs to be able to access talking animations no matter what state they're in. So if I had it in substate, but also typing was in a substate, then I couldn't really have typing and talking. So in this way, I would just make a new state called it'd probably be like sitting talk or sitting type talk or something or whatever. And then I would just create a substate that's an integer to set which thing I want it to be. That was a terrible explanation, but I'm hoping you guys get it. I showed it to you basically a second ago. Anyways, now what's neat about this is that originally I had made it a private enumerator or enumeration or whatever, but then I realized I couldn't just put like dot character state controller dot character state. That wouldn't work. It had to be completely public, outside of the class of character controller, in order for me to access it. And sorry, I used the word public wrong. I meant this used to be inside of the character state controller class to make it accessible only to this class. And that was a bit of a problem. So I popped it up top. Now anything can access it. And all it is just replacing strings, basically. This just makes it, essentially, that I don't have to use strings, because I know I'm going to mess up some typing. And then Visual Studio is going to tell me I did something wrong. And that way I can prevent things going wrong before I'm searching for needles in a haystack. Anyhow, on Awake, they're going to get their animator, so it's individualized per character. And then at the very start, there's going to be a start state. This is probably going to change because I got to see how things evolve. But yeah, so right now, it's going to go to start state, start sub state, and then whatever the very first position is. I guess I could make also a start waypoint, which I probably should, I suppose, but I think 0, it makes sense. It's the first one. All right. And this is the method, which actually, I thought it was going to be way more complicated than this, but it's pretty simple. There is some nesting, but that's just so we don't set states that are already set. We can ignore, what's the word? We can ignore unnecessary code, basically. So if the state is truly new, well, then we're going to turn off all of the parameter booleans in our animator. We're going to set a new state to our animator, and we're going to turn that one true. That's the only one that can ever be on. So it's one state at a time, with the exception of substates. And then the substate is the same thing. If this is truly a new integer being put in, then we'll change that value. And luckily, I only need one variable for this. Originally, I was like, okay, I need a substate integer for sitting, a substate integer for standing, a substate integer for whatever. Then I realized, no, I don't, because once they switch states, that integer will have a different meaning. So I just need one, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. And then lastly, the same thing. If we're not already in the location we need to be, well, go to that location and look in the same direction as that location. And then I have a debug log, which I'm very happy with it. Let me just play it just for myself, I suppose. Oh, it's already here. So when I have my debugs turned on, it tells me Maxi is sitting idle 1 at chair waypoint. So I have a very clear log to me as to exactly what the characters are doing and where they are. Now that's sort of the biggest change that's happened so far, and as an effect of this change, I realized, well, one, my character models can be better. They're just a little flat, they're a little smooth. Now, I did want this to be low poly, but the animations are kind of rough. Like a little too rough with the low poly, even with hours spent weight painting and stuff. And I realized also, if I'm going to be using all Mixamo humanoid animations, well then, why don't I use their skeleton? Now, I don't want to use their skeleton exactly, because I plan on making an asset on the Unity store for a male and female of what I'm about to show you now. So I'm replicating, but symmetrizing the Mixamo skeleton, and I'm going to use, or have sort of already started using, the Xbot and Ybot from Mixamo. Now I'm not using their mesh, but I'm using their general shape to redo my character models. And what this is going to allow me to do is, well, kind of already what I have done, which is make it so that all the NPCs can animate just like any other NPC, but by making the skeleton tailor-made to Mixamo and making the meshes tailor-made to Mixamo, I'm going to have, or at least in theory, I'm going to have overall better animations that are more predictable, more smooth, and just overall better. Now, there are some design traits that I'm keeping, like, for example, if I come over here, my mesh, for the most part, with the exception of like this lab coat, which I messed up, let's go to the other character where I have a not messed up lab coat. The way this mesh is set up, all I have to do is grab whatever color I want, and I can replace colors for different parts. So like you see how the legs here are subdivided? This allows me to have short shorts, or a little bit longer shorts, or all the way long pants. Or I can make it all skin color if I wanted to. I can change the hair, change the jacket. And then on top of that, extra layers of clothing can just be turned off. So what I'm working on now is a model that has no extra layers of clothing, no hair. It's just a body, just a face, with meshes that are divided to have, which are divided to be designed to allow this same color changing. So you can have a tank top or a short sleeve or a long sleeve or gloves. And in the new one, there's even going to be fingernails. Now, this is a little weird because what happens is you end up with all these meshes you have to deal with. But I think having a bunch of having a bunch of materials is overall better than having a bunch of meshes. So instead of having a million different underlayer shirts, I can just have, not a million obviously, but instead of having to model a bunch of different underlayers, all the underlayering is there already and I can change the color. Then the only thing that's custom that I need to make are the overlayers, like coats and shoes and hair. And what's cool about this is I will have that base model with all the underlayers done, sort of an underpainting, I guess, if you will. The underlayer is complete. Now, when actually, I don't even have to have multiple Blender projects. In that one Blender project with that model, I can create a bunch of different hair models, a bunch of different outerwear models, and then I just have to export a new FBX with some of the visibilities turned off. And then I can make sure that everything is mocked up to a standard, and that standard can be used throughout the game. But let's go into Blender real quick so I can show you what it looks like. Here, it's not done. I'm going through all the faces to change up the triangulation a little bit better. Now, this does have more vertices overall than the original model. However, I'm okay with it. I think it still falls under the low poly category technically. It just doesn't look as low poly. And let's grab everything real quick. So half of the body is 1700 vertices. So double that, and that's how many vertices we have for just the base layer. And then we'll of course, there's more added on layer. Even then, there's only 3,000 faces. So this is still fairly low poly, but it looks much more rounded. Now, again, I'm modeling this tailor-made to the bot X and bot Y. So I have my references here. Now, again, it's not going to be exact because I think the bots look a little unnatural, but using this as a guide has also made my characters a little less smooth and flat. Some parts will be kind of smooth and flat, like the head. And, like, I think I'm going to get rid of ears. I don't know if I really need the ears. We'll see. Maybe I'll just extrude some of these pieces out. Anyways. But now you can see the arms. The arms have some movement to them now, instead of just being these straight lines. Now, one thing that I definitely did different than Mixamo is they have separated parts here. The model that I'm doing is a mono block. It's just one thing, but it's tailor-made to suit Mixamo's animations. So that way, and again, I'm going to make this an asset for cheap. So anybody who's developing, most likely this would probably be used as like a placeholder, but like a really good placeholder that you could, in theory, use for a full product. But it'll allow you to already have access to a big library of animations. All you'll have to do, because I can't include the Mixamo animations, is just get the animations you want and pop them in. But you'll know that it's going to work just fine. In addition, this is not the same exact armature as Mixamo. All the bones, there's the same amount of bones. The bones are all in the same rotations, and the bones are all in the same positions because, again, it's supposed to be very predictable, but this armature has been symmetrized. So let's see, I have my X symmetry on. I can just go to object mode right here and grab a bone. Oops. Fine, we'll go to pose mode, grab a bone. So the Mixamo skeletons are not symmetrized. This skeleton will already by default be symmetrized. The naming conventions have changed a little bit to match my naming conventions. For example, this, even though it's a bone, I'm calling it the thigh. I feel like it makes a lot more sense. You go, oh, I need to get to the whatever part is, like in my brain, I see that part of the human body as a thigh, and I want to move that, so I'm going to search up thigh. Or shin for the lower leg. Now, obviously, I could also probably call it calf or something. But, I don't know, upper leg and lower leg is more words. And then I have upper and lower everything, and it's a pain. But the naming conventions have changed. And it has been symmetrized. And where's my brain at here? Okay, so let's turn materials on. So currently, this is the material blocking. So the colors are just here for contrast. You can obviously turn them into whatever color you want, and you can do it in here, or you can do it in Unity, which is the whole point. I don't really want to be in Blender. I want to do everything in Unity, but I got to make the model here in Blender. Now, so we have feet, we have ankles, we have shins, knees, we have the lower thigh. What did I call it again? Lower thigh, middle thigh, upper thigh? I didn't want to have so many subdivisions, but it kind of ended up being necessary in order to have different potentials. Like, come on, not pose mode, object mode. Body, materials. I could probably just click here. So I had upper thighs, mid thighs, and lower thighs. That is annoying to me, but whatever. This was necessary, so that way we could have like bathing suit, we could have short shorts, we could have longer shorts, we can have knee-high pants, we can have past the knee pants, and we can have full pants, and we could even have dangling like longer pants. Or the ankles could also replace socks. Now, realistically, I'll be creating overwear for the shoes. So that'll be a little different, but in theory, you wouldn't have to. So also, this allows me to have like a one-piece bathing suit or a two-piece bathing suit, or we can replace that white so that we have a solid short sleeve shirt, or we can make the sleeves longer to go past the shoulders, or the sleeves can go to the elbows. Oh, wait, I gotta fix something. I forgot to do elbows. I have the material for it. Let's do it right now real quick. Body, edit mode. Let's Alt-Z. These, oh no, elbows is right here. Maybe I already did it, but just didn't change the color. No, it's set to lower thighs. Where's my elbows? Elbows. Oh wait, am I clicked on something else? Let's do this again. Make sure I'm not clicked on anything. Grab all this. And where's my elbows at here? elbows, assign, and let's change this color, something with contrast. Okay, so you can have a shirt past the shoulders, to the elbows, past the elbows, to the wrists, past the wrists. And then we have the hands, and then the hands also are going to have fingernails where you could just in Unity drag a material over whatever material you want and change the color of the fingernails. I guess I could do toenails. I don't think I want to. But I suppose I might as well. I don't really know. Anyways, but hopefully you can see the potential here. And then the face, I can turn the face on, but it's just going to be black. I actually have to reshape this face to match the new head. I haven't done that yet. But the reason this is black is because it's a transparent layer. And it has two materials, an eye material and a mouth material. And when you pop those materials in Unity, it'll have a transparent background. So you can have eyes on the top, mouth on the bottom. And then if you design your texture correctly into a grid with varying positions for the eyes and mouths, you can, in theory, play animations by cycling through that texture's grid. But I can't really demonstrate that now. And in fact, the system is currently broken in Unity because I did so much redoing of everything. But this asset that I'm going to publish, you will have access to this face. And maybe I'll even include a basic face materials or something. I don't know. I'm not there yet. But yeah, so I've been spending hours and hours and hours doing this. Still not done. I still need to tweak the mesh. I still need to make sure all the animations are as perfect as can be. One of the big issues is right here where the belt is. That part likes to get stretched out a lot, so I've got to go ahead and do some weight painting. Right now, I just did automatic weight painting, and it's working pretty good. Let me just go ahead and show you. So with automatic weight painting, this is what we've got here. Pretty good already. Now I put a side by side because we can see some clipping here on mine, but there's also clipping here on theirs. Now it's less noticeable because they really squeezed in those arm bones, but you can see it. So things won't be as perfect as I want them to be, but it will be within an acceptable range when compared to Mixamo's animations. But literally, I just click on an animation and it will work. Like, predictably. I can do Old Man, and it's going to work just as good as their Old Man. Now, even though the model I'm showing you is based off of the Xbot, which is what we're seeing here on the left, the Xbot and Ybot seem to use the same skeleton. So since the skeleton that I made is a replica of the Mixamo skeleton, it should all be the same. All I'm going to really do is change the mesh to have one that's breasted and one that's chested. I don't know what you want to call it. But I'm very happy with this so far. Look at that, just as you. And now, like I'm noticing, yeah, my character's hands are up in the air, but look, so are the Mixamo's characters up in the air. Which again is not ideal, but is what I've intended. I want predictability. I want to know that every character I make, I don't have to make a bajillion tweaks to them. I do have to make a bajillion tweaks to this one character, but then once this one character is ready, it can be reused to infinity, and hopefully one of you guys sees this and buys it when it's ready, which will be pretty soon, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's it for this update. Thank you for watching.